Welcome to Cheese in Depth. I'm Michael Landis, and coming up this week is National Cheddar Day. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about cheddars today. I get asked a lot about the differences between a white cheddar and an orange cheddar. And a lot of times, if somebody says that, well, I prefer one or the other. In reality, when you look at these two, this Cabot cheese, they're both the same. They're the identical cheese with the difference of being one's orange and one's white. So what's the difference? Honestly, it's just the color. It's an annatto. It's a seed that they use to be able to color the cheddar. And it doesn't make any change of the flavors at all. It has no flavor to it. And so when you have them comparable, and you have the two styles like that, they're virtually the same. Now, however, we see a lot of times where people say, oh, I've had really strong white cheddars and milder orange cheddars. Well, a lot of times with the white cheddars, they're vintages or they're aged for 2 years, 3 years, or 14 years, whatever it happens to be. And in that, they can become more intense, crunchier, drier, all those things that go along with that. And so it can be a point that a lot of times they are going to be, the white cheddars are going to be a little bit more robust, but that would just be the style and or the maker of that cheddar. So I also get asked about the intensities of the flavors that you get from a cheddar. In other words, mild, sharp, extra sharp, and how do you make that distinction? Well, generally it's on it, but a lot of times it'll just say years on it. That's aged for 2 or 3 years. You look at the Tillamook. The Tillamook starts off at aged at 2010 and goes up to 2018. Each one is going to have a different flavor characteristic in the amount of intensity of sharpness. Just the same exact cheese, just aged differently. So when we talk about mild, generally what you're going to expect from getting a mild cheddar is something that has a nice buttery flavor with a little bit of sour cream. So you get that cream flavor and a little hint of saltiness to it. And that would be like the Sartori Montemore. That it gives you a really nice little tanginess to it, but it's not overpowering. And then they have the Old World, which takes you up to another level. So what I like to say about this is like the comparison of citrus. In other words, the tanginess that you get from an orange versus a Myers lemon versus a lemon versus a lime. So the sharpness or the tanginess that you get from it. Now you're not going to get that flavor in the cheddar, but you're going to get the intensity of the tanginess through it. So when you have the Old World or Heritage, you're able to get a little bit more of that lemon flavor. So that lemon, not flavor, but tang. So you get that tanginess from there. So you get the butter, you get the tang, you get a little saltiness. And then in their farmhouse, this is like their extra sharp. So you really get a lime intensity, not the flavor of lime, but the intensity of that tanginess. And so there's some saltiness along with it. But, when we talk about the aging as well, I have a 14-year aged cheddar that's orange. So it doesn't have to be a white cheddar to be aged. It can be an orange cheddar, and you can just look at the differences between there. The next thing I get asked is, are all the cheddars made with cow's milk? Well, no, actually, the majority of them are, because the cows produce a tremendous amount of milk, so you can have a lot more cheese, where the sheep and the goat are a lot smaller animals, so they produce less. But a really good example is the Carr Valley. The Carr Valley has a beautiful goat's milk cheddar. And then Beecher's that has a sheep's milk cheddar called Flag Sheep. And then Rogue Creamery, they have a mix. It's a cow's milk and a goat's milk. When we look at the flavor characteristics, a sheep's milk is going to be more buttery. It's very, very rich. It's got a lot of butter fat to it, so you're going to get that, but it still retains the tanginess. So you get a little tangy, especially as it ages. A goat cheese has a little bit of a different characteristic of the tanginess, but when it ages, it ages just like a regular cheddar does. So you get a little bit more tangy, but it starts off a little milder, I think, between that. And then of course, blending it depends on the blend on there, but it gives it a little bit of a unique flavor because again, the goat's milk is going to give it its natural tanginess. And then even then, each of the cheeses will have a different intensity. Like the flagship is 18 months, and then they have a 4-year-old bandage wrap. So you have different, just from the same person or manufacturer, you have a different intensity of flavor. Example would be the Tillamook right there. So I also get asked, why is the cheddar crunchy? All right, so this is a part of the process, and I think sometimes it establishes a authenticity in its aging, because when you make cheddar, the cheddaring process is actually you press down the cheese in the vat, and then you slice it and you layer it on top of each other, then you mill it, and then after it's milled back into small curds, they actually put salt on it, and the salt, when it hits it, it actually turns into a little bit of a brine, and then they pack it together. So as it ages, that little bit of wetness that it has on the salt will evaporate. And what it leaves is what's known as calcium carbonate. So it's a little crunchy. So the longer it ages, the drier the cheese can be, not like it tastes like paper, it's just that is absorbed in it. So you get a crunchiness to the flavor of the characteristic of it. And also, sometimes there'll be a white little bit of film on it. And this is a good example. This is an 11-year-old cheddar. So you can kind of see that there's a little bit of white film and white specks in this. And that tells you a little bit about its aging as well, that it's really well aged and a beautiful cheese. So then I get asked about flavored cheddars. There's a wide variety. Hennings actually does a mango jalapeno, which I think is just magnificent in its own. And they do a bourbon as well, bourbon maple. But when you look at that, there's two different types. There's a type that it's actually rubbed on it and then inside the cheese. And Beehive cheese does the rubs. So what they do is it's an external. And these are some beautiful cheeses that Beehive puts out. They have their famous Barely Buzzed, which is rubbed on the outside of their promontory cheese, their cheddar, and it is espresso, lavender, and honey. Oh, it's magnificent. And it's just on the outside, but it does permeate inside a little bit in the taste. So they have an apple walnut, they have a Big John's Cajun, so a little spicy in there. And then they have my favorite, which is Pour Me a Slice. And that is infused with Basil Hayden bourbon. So that's an amazing one. And then you can have them inside. And that would be like with the Beechers, this is Marco Polo. And this is black and green peppercorns crushed up inside that. So it's got a little peppery flavor. It's not too crazy. And keep in mind that there's all that butter in that cheese, and it's a little younger, so it's a little more creamier. And then of course you can smoke it as well. And Tillamook has a beautiful smoked cheese. Beechers has a smoked cheese. There's a lot of one. And again, natural smoke adds to a little bit of a meaty flavor. So it's just really enjoyable. And so there's a different styles. And of course, there's the style of pub cheese or cold cheese where you can get it in a tub and it's real cheddar. Like Pine River, that's real 9-month aged cheddar, and they put butter in it, then they mix it up and put the flavors in it. So you even get a bigger flavor. My favorite is always the horseradish. I just love that. It's got a nice little kick to it and really a lot of fun. It's great on burgers, but it's great on everything. So, you can really have fun with that. So we do have National Cheddar Day, and it's going to be followed up by the next day is going to be Valentine's Day. And so I prepared my cheese board to be able to be for Valentine's Day. So first off, I'm going to pair the cheddars. Typically, I pair them with a lighter wine. However, if you have a really strong, like the Tillamook cheese that's aged for 10, 12 years, you're going to need something a little bit stronger. So a Cabernet Sauvignon works really well. But for generally, I like Syrahs. Syrahs are a lot of fun. Sangioveses work really well. Antinori with the Santa Cristina Rosso is really amazing. It's a nice Sangiovese. If you're looking for white wine, Antinori Santa Cristina also does a Pinot Grigio that works really well because it's more fruit forward, so you don't have to worry about that tanginess. But as it gets tangier, it is going to get a little bit more acidic to the wine. So kind of keep that in mind. It actually makes the wine taste a little bit more fruity, but it may take the cheddar to a little bit stronger of a tanginess. So also beer-wise, my favorite has always been a lager. I think lagers work really well, but if you need a little bit of hoppiness, you can go with a pale ale. IPAs work really well. I've done a lot with IPAs. My favorite lager is actually a black lager. And 610 Brewing out of Tampa, they do a mischievous black. And so you have the lightness of the lager with a little bit of maltiness to it. And I think that's fabulous. I think it really works really well with it. But again, always pair what you like with it, because that's going to be the funnest part about it. You know, having that flavors that you really enjoy come out and come together. And as for adding to something on the cheese itself, I chose 3 different things. And so on the cheddar, and what I did was I sliced the cheddar thin into square, and then I used a cookie cutter, a heart cookie cutter, and I stamped them out. And then on top of the first one, I put a Perseverance Society, and this is a pepper jelly. Oh my God, it's like the best pepper jelly I've ever had. 4 peppers, a little bit of tanginess to it, and jelly. It's absolutely fabulous. Don't worry that it's going to be too hot, because the cheddar actually tones it down and gives you more of the flavors of the peppers without the heat. And then another favorite of mine is fig spread. But this is an orange fig spread, which really brings out some fun flavors with the cheese. And then last one, this is, I love pears. And this is Girl Meets Dirt. And it's a heritage pear preserve. Really simple, doesn't have to get crazy, just a little bit on here. If I'm gonna use a cracker, I may use an Effie's, like a corn cracker or a oat cracker. If I'm gonna use a something with a little bit of sourdough in it, probably be Rustic Bakery. They do a wonderful rosemary that goes well with all of these. And a rosemary, an IPA, and a cheddar, that's so amazing. So hopefully you found something in here that you like. We have the National Cheddar Day on Saturday, February 13th. So grab your favorite cheddar, and you can join us on Zoom at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Look at michaellandischeese.com or Michael Landis Cheese Facebook or Michael Landis Cheese LinkedIn. Any one of those, you'll be able to find the link to be able to join us. And we're going to have 5 cheesemongers on, and they are going to compete for the best cheese board. And there'll be one winner, 5 cheeses, 5 cheesemongers, 5 pairings, and 1 winner. And we're going to have that on Saturday, February 13th, and that'll be at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's free. And just bring your own cheddar and enjoy with us. So again, I'm Michael Landis with Cheese in Depth. Thank you so much for joining us.